Okay, let's learn to play this game called chess. Chess is a game played by over 500 million people all over the world. So this game is a game of 6 pieces, and we have the rook before us. The rook is the first piece we shall learn today, and this rook moves in a straight line. So we can say that the rook can capture this pawn, this star. The rooks always move in straight lines. So we can say that we can capture one star at a time. Then we shall also be able to capture the next star. Please remember that the rooks always move straight. So to capture this star, we have to move to our right. The rooks always move straight in any number of steps. So let's capture this star, and then we can capture also these stars. We shall capture this one first, and then we shall come back for these two, one star at a time. So let's capture this first, and then you can also capture this and this. So that is how the rooks move. What about 5 stars? If I want to capture them one star at a time, I'll start with I can start with this one, and then I'll come with this, and then I'll go for this first, and then I'll come back and get this. So these are 5 stars. You can capture them whatever way you want, but remember, the fewer steps you make, most times it's the better way to go. So let me capture this, and then I can capture this, then I can go for this. I'll get back for the one at the back, and then go for this, and then finish up with that. So that's how the rooks capture, and that's how the rooks move. Always having space between them is important. Remember, rooks cannot jump over other pieces. Rooks cannot jump over other pieces. So this time we have 2 rooks. One rook can capture the stars in its path, and also the other rook can also capture the stars in its path. So let's capture this, and also this rook can also capture this. Remember, one step at a time in chess, one step at a time. So we can also capture this, and also this rook can also capture this star. Great. So finally, we can also see that this rook has its path, and also this star is in its path. And also we have this one can capture this first, and then we can go for this for these stars in this rook's path. How many moves are those? Okay, let's start with this. This is 1, and then I'll go with this 2, and then that's enough for this one. And then you can have this one which has these stars in its paths. So let's take this first, and then you can go for this. Before we go for this one, let's go for this first, and then we can get back for these. We can get back to these stars, and there we go. Great. So that is how the rooks move. So we can go to the bishop. So the bishop is our next piece. We said 6 pieces in chess. So the bishop is our next piece. The bishop moves in a diagonal path. So we have this diagonal path. The bishops move diagonally. It moves diagonally. So diagonally means that only in the light squares, we can call them white. If the bishop is in the light squares, we can move in the light squares. You can see this. The bishops always move in the light squares. So we can capture anything in our path. The bishop moves diagonally. And then there we go. That is how the bishop moves. So this bishop can always just move diagonally, one step at a time, remember, and then you can capture anything you want to get. So let's take this. We take this star, take this star, take this star. I'll go for this first before I come back for this. Let me go for this, and then yeah, that is how we always get these stars. So we come back for this and this. Great. So let's continue. Let's see how this bishop captures. So I think this star in the corner will be the first one to get before we come back for these this star. Which one is the easiest path? Will I have to first go for this and come back for this, get back for this? Yeah, I think let me try this and then I'll come back for this, then I get this, then I come back for this, then I'll easily finish up with these stars. Okay, so we also have this. How do we get this? Which one can I start with? Is this side and this side. I can. This is when you start thinking through which path is easier. I can take up this side, then take up this side. I think this was a longer path. I don't think it was the perfect one. Then I have this and this and this and this and boom. Yes, we got all of them. So we know that bishops only move diagonally. So this is what I was saying, that one bishop will always stick to the dark squares, and one bishop will also be able to take up the light squares. So please note the light and dark squares. Note this important remark: the light and the dark squares. So one bishop will take these dark squares, and also one bishop will take the other light squares. So this is how the bishops move. That's an important thing to remark. So let's finish up with this pretty fast. So this bishop will take all the light. This bishop will take all the light stars, and also please note that these stars are not there in the real game. The real game we shall have pieces, we shall not have stars. So yeah, one light squared bishop and the other dark squared bishop will take all the other stars. So that's all for the bishop, and let's go to the queen. So the queen is easier since we have learned the rook and the bishop. The queen is much easier. The queen always moves in like a bishop and like a rook. Any side it wants to go, it can move like a bishop, it can move like a bishop, it can move like a bishop, a bishop. It can also move like a rook, it can move like a rook, it can move like a rook at the back, it can move like a rook. So that's how the queen moves. The queen can move any side it wants, any side it wants to go. So let's move like, if you want to capture this, you can move like a rook at step 1, and then you can move like a bishop step 2. Yeah. So that's how the rook and the bishop move, and that's how the queen moves. The queen is basically a combination of a rook and a bishop. It's basically a combination of the rook and the bishop. So let's take this side. We can first move like a bishop, then it can move like a rook, can get this, and then like a bishop, and then like a rook. So this is how we can just quickly get the queen, use the queen. So let's take this, the bishop first, then rook, then bishop, then rook. Of course, anything that's in our way, we can always, there's an easier path, I realize. We can move like bishop first, then rook, bishop, rook. I think this is more smoother. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And there we are. So lastly, second last, let's take this and this. Just trying to rush this up since it's more of the same stuff we've been doing. I think I missed a connected line. So if you cannot get it in your path, you first move like a rook. That's step 1, and then in your next step you can move like a rook again. So lastly, we can now take up these. Let's take up these. I think we are nailing this well. This and this. So in one straight line, that was perfect. So we can now go to the king. After the queen has his king. So the king, unlike the queen, the king only moves one step. The king only moves one step. He's a slow guy, so let's be patient with him. So this guy moves in one step, any side. Please note that he can move like a queen. He also moves like the queen, but the only difference is that he moves in one step. And the other important difference is that he cannot be captured. He is the king of the game. He cannot be captured. We shall say that later. So the king moves only one step. If I wanna get this if I want to get this this star, I have to move one step at a time. I can move this side and then I go for it after one step at a time. One, that's one. You remember I can move any side. Then this is two, and then the third step I can take this star. So if I want to take these stars one step at a time, let's take this, then we take this, then we take this, then we take this. Yeah, so that's, we got it. So one step at a time, let's take these one step at a time, and then we take this, then we take this. If you want to come back for these stars, we shall have to come back slowly, and then we take this and this and this. So that's an important thing to take, and then we can go to the knight. The knight moves in an L shape. One of the differences in my book, most trainers and teachers say the knight moves in an L shape. L shape means that it makes a capital L. As you can see, you can maybe see it in this path. This is some form of L. You can see that this is an L-shaped movement. But in my book, I teach it differently. I say that the knight moves in diagonal, one step like a bishop, if you remember the bishop, and one step like a rook. This is I found this quite different from most trainers. I hope you can remember this. Also, this is my style. One step like a bishop and one step like a rook. So one step like a rook and one step like a bishop. So this is something quite important here. One step like a rook, one step like a bishop. Or if you want to get it differently, one step like a bishop, one step like a rook. So if you can remember that, that's how the knight moves. Knights have a fancy way of jumping around. So this is a fancy way of jumping around. And please note that the knights are the only pieces allowed to jump over other pieces. Yep. So the knights can jump over other pieces because of their weird movement. So one step like a rook, one step like a bishop. Let's go. One step like a rook, one step like a bishop. So that's how the knight captures the star. And what about this? One step like a bishop, one step like a one step like a rook, one step like a bishop. Or either way, you can even say one step like a bishop, one step like a rook. So whatever way you prefer, that's how the knight gets to the star. Yep. So let's see. One step like a rook, one step like a bishop. Boom. One step like a rook, one step like a bishop. Boom. One step like a rook, one step like a bishop. One step rook, bishop. One step rook, one step bishop. So we keep on getting these. So the quicker way to just do it is just to strike immediately. Rook, bishop. Yep. So that's how the knight moves. So let's take this. We can have it as fast as we want. So what about if this is really tangled up here? This is really tangled up here. So we have this. We can move out of this square since we cannot capture any star. We can move out of this star square, and then we can come back for these stars pretty fast. Remember, I'm just doing this fast because I've already seen how this works. And let's go. So this can be done pretty fast. Strangely, the first piece I learned was the knight. I learned this from my sister, and I forgot it also pretty fast. So it's a tricky piece. So watch out its movements. It's a tricky piece, and you'll enjoy it when you learn it properly well. How can we get this star? We need some steps. We shall maybe first move around and then come back for it. So the more practice you make, the more these things get more easier. So the knight was the most tricky piece, and last we go for the pawn. Pawns are tricky. Pawns have many rules, unlike other pieces. They have different stages, and they keep on changing some rules as they progress. So pawns move straight. Please remember that the pawns start when there are 8 pieces on the board. When there are 8 pawns on the board, that's how the game starts. So this first moves, pawns only move one step, remember. So when they reach the end, they get promoted. When they reach the end, they get promoted. So that's an important thing to note. When pawns reach the end, they get promoted. So you can ask for whatever you want. Your pawn reached the end of the board, it now promotes to a stronger piece. So you can select the piece you want. I'll choose the queen. Most guys will choose the queen. The queen is the strongest, remember? It moves like a rook and like a bishop, so it has 2-in-1. It's a 2-in-1 piece. So this queen can fly around, remember, and capture anything. So that's how the pawns move. So how do pawns move? They only move forward only. Please note that the pawns never move sideways. Pawns cannot move. Pawns cannot move any. Pawns cannot move any side, any backwards or front, or sideways. They only move frontwards. They only move forward. So let's first move forward, and then when we reach the end, we can ask for what we want. You can ask for a knight. Yeah, you can even ask for a knight, and this knight can just take anything in its path. Yeah. So let's see the pawns. The pawn moves sideways. But something important, please note that the pawns capture diagonally. The pawns capture diagonally. So let's see how these pawns capture. The pawns capture diagonally like this, and then like this, and then like that. Yep. So that's how the pawns capture. The pawns can capture only diagonally. Please note that the pawns cannot capture forward. They can move forward, but they cannot capture forward. So we can capture this star, and then we can move, and then we can choose which side. We can also move forward, but we cannot capture forward. I repeat, the pawns don't capture forward. They only capture diagonally, like a bishop. So they can capture diagonally. So when we reach the end, we can choose a rook, and then the rook can come back and get the rook move straight. The rook can come back and get this. So the pawns capture diagonally. The pawns capture diagonally. So we can capture diagonally, one step at a time. Remember, they cannot fly. They can capture diagonally. Then you can get a rook. Yeah. So the rook can come here and just capture these stars. So let's see how these pawns capture. One pawn can capture diagonally here, and then our next step we can also capture diagonally, and when we can capture diagonally, we can move forward. Remember, the pawns move forward, and then you capture diagonally. You can move forward, and then you capture diagonally, and that's nice. So the pawns also move. The pawns, something special, the pawns can move 2 steps when they are starting. Remember, this is the starting rank of the pawns. The pawns start on the 2nd rank, and the black pawns will be on the 7th rank. So please note that important remark. The pawns can start 2 steps when they are starting, can move 2 steps when they are starting at the start. So a pawn on the 2nd rank can move. Important note, the pawn can move. The pawn on the 2nd rank can move 2 squares at once. So this pawn can move 2 squares. Any pawn on the 2nd rank can move 2 squares. But after moving 2 squares, you can only move once, and then you can capture diagonally. And lastly, let's see how this works. So this can capture diagonally, this can capture diagonally, this can capture diagonally. This guy can also move 2 steps, remember, and then you can capture diagonally. This guy can move 2 steps, remember, and then you can capture diagonally. This guy can move 2 steps, and then you can capture diagonally. So that is how the pawns move, and that's how the pieces move in chess. And now you're ready to play. You're ready to play chess game, and please note that capturing is very important in chess. So instead of stars, pieces will now be now you can capture the opponent's pieces. And see you in the next tutorial, and we shall now have to play the full game. You've learned how the chess pieces move. Now it's time to go play a chess game. Thanks. See you in the next video.